Julio Rodriguez. Oh my goodness, did I undersell this guy a couple of months ago? I said, yeah, he's having very close to what Ken Griffey Jr. had as his rookie year. And I sort of was throwing a little bit of subtle shade over Julio without attempting to really do so, of course, and saying, well, yeah, okay, he's having the 19-year-old season that Ken Griffey Jr. had in his rookie year. But Griffey was 19 years old and Julio's 21. So, I mean, we've got to put a little bit of that in perspective to a degree. He's gone out since then and absolutely torn the cover off the baseball. Beyond just tearing the cover off the baseball, though, he's been a complete baseball player, and he's been that kind of player that you hear talked about every once in a while. Griffey was this way for me. Anytime I watched him in person, it was this way, being that you would always see him do something unique or insane athletically. It wasn't always necessarily with the bat. It could be running the bases, stealing the bases. It could be making a play in the field. But there was always going to be that one moment, like the green flash before a sunset goes to dark, where you would see him do something amazing. And Julio seems to be in that same kind of vein, where he just always, every game is going to do something that makes you sort of turn your head and go, oh, man, goodness, almost take your breath away kind of plays. He's played marvelous defense. He is stealing bases at a fairly high rate. He's hitting for power. He's doing everything you could want, especially now that, frankly, the umpires aren't squeezing him as far as the strike zones are concerned. They're actually calling it, legitimate on him and not giving him some rookie strike zone, which is what it seemed like at times through that first month. He has been absolutely the bedrock of this team. He is where it begins. It literally starts with him now as he is up at the top of the lineup. I love that move, moving him out of the middle of the order, because you get his speed on the base pads a little bit quicker. You get him more at bats, and he's been your most productive hitter, really, at the end of the day when it's all said and done. Maybe Ty France has been maybe just a little bit better, a little bit more consistent at the end of the day, but if you look at the last month and a half, 2 months, he's been as hot as anybody. And now he's been named an all-star, which is an amazing accomplishment for a rookie. But even more amazing is when you look at his WAR, which is, of course, the player's basic value, all condensed down into this bottom line number of how many wins you're helping. He's on pace for about a 6 WAR, which would be MVP level of discussion we're putting him into. He's up in that category at that point if he can continue on this type of pace. I went and took a little quick glance at him and Ken Griffey Jr.'s 21-year-old season, because, of course, that by 21 years old, Jr. was heading into his 3rd year. And it's astonishing is that even right now, Julio's matching up reasonably well to where Jr. was in his 21-year-old season. Not 19, 21-year-old Jr. and 21-year-old Julio Rodriguez are going to have very similar numbers when it all settles out at the end of the year. Junior might bat for a little bit higher average. Julio's probably going to have a little bit more home runs. Junior will have a little bit more in the doubles category of things, maybe a few more walks, a few less strikeouts, whereas Julio will have a few more stolen bases. So it's interesting to just kind of counterbalance each of these guys in the respect of trying to look at Julio and say, what is he going to go become now? What is his upside? Where is his ceiling? Is he a Ken Griffey Jr. type talent? Dare I say he could be even something potentially beyond that in the long-term future and where his trajectory takes him? I don't really know. This is a place where I don't have an analytical eye to tell you that, oh, I think he'll get to this spot. I think you're watching stardom unfolding before our very eyes. I think he's very much on that same trajectory that we saw from Griffey. I think whereas before I saw him with a little bit of a high ceiling point that would probably find himself a bit under Ken Griffey Jr., I think he's certainly opened up the discussion at this point to put himself lockstep with Jr. as far as where you can project these guys to potentially go and be. He is certainly one of the, if not the current bright, shining young star that's burst onto the scene here in Major League Baseball, a league, frankly, which is dying for these kind of stars to come along. And it's just going to be so much fun to watch and see how they can maybe pair through the rest of this lineup with some of the other hitters you've got along with Crawford, Ty France, Lewis when he gets back in the lineup. What happens when we get Lewis? And maybe he can provide a little bit, along with the Lance and some of these guys in the middle of the order, protection if these pitchers start to maybe try to pitch around Julio. If he starts to get a little bit of a reputation of, you don't want to give that guy anything to look. You don't want to give him any fastballs, let's say. But he has been absolutely marvelous as a player. And again, I think the upside for him is absolutely through the roof. It's going to be so much fun to watch this kid just continue to develop. And he brings just an obvious joy to this clubhouse, a spirit to this clubhouse that I don't want to put it all on him. Certainly the other guys in that clubhouse that are responsible for, but his just his general cool energy, laid back, just I'm here. I love this game. I love what I'm doing. It really does seem to resonate with everybody. And everybody's sort of just kind of taken on that energy a little bit. I will say on one side of it, I wouldn't mind him see him steal a few less bases. I'm okay if he runs just a little bit less. Well, that's an area of his game that he's got, and he has a high rate of being able to get those bags when he does run. We saw today there was a little bit of a scary moment there where he's going in for the slide and his hand sort of catches and turns and twists a little bit. And boy, on slow motion, it looked really scary. He bounced back. Hell, he even got a double later on in the game, so it didn't seem to hold him back. We'll see how he does in the home run derby with that. But maybe we'd look to have him run just a little bit less in the second half, except when we really need it. We got to, I think, to a degree, protect this kid a little bit. And as analytics have showed us, as some of the nerds have told us on this, stolen bases just aren't necessarily that important on the overall focus of the game and winning or losing, and especially when it's going to come at the cost of potentially losing your superstar for multiple months, if not the season, if something went wrong. God forbid he broke his hand on that type of play, as of could have happened today, which would have been a sour way to close this out, despite if you had even won this game. Nonetheless, this kid is amazing. This kid is awesome. Enjoy what you're watching. These kind of guys don't come down the track every often. We've had a Griffey. You could maybe put A-Rod into that same mold, into that same kind of, just being a prodigy-like talent. This kid comes along and he's in that same vein. I don't think that there's been a fourth one in Mariner history. These three guys, and that's it. So really enjoy this kid and what he's doing. And then also savor the fact that hopefully you're going to get to watch him here for the next decade. The next superstar has come, and his name is Julio Rodriguez.